Yes, Espedia. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. The 2025 NFL season is finally upon us. Week 1 is officially here, and we have our first NFL Oracle video of the year where we break down the entire weekly NFL slate. I could not be more excited to go ahead and talk some NFL football with you guys. We got a great video in store and a ton of great picks to share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. We have a ton of great content coming out here on the channel all year long, especially right now. We have so much football content coming out weekly between myself, Ev, and Trey. That's not even including Ev's daily MLB picks videos. We have Trey's daily WNBA picks videos. And the best part is every pick we hand out on this channel is 100% free. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. Like I said, guys, I have a ton of picks to go and share with you guys in today's slate. Some ground rules to set up first here for how the Oracle works. If you guys weren't here last year, it's basically just like go through the entire NFL slate and give you my picks from almost every game, unless there's certain games that I don't love. For example, here in week 1, you're not going to get any picks from Browns, Bengals, or from Cardinals, Saints. I apologize. I just don't find any value in those games. I don't want to give you guys picks just for the sake of giving you guys picks. I want to make sure I believe in them. I like them. I couldn't find anything from those two games that I liked. So those two games will not be covered in today's video. So to the Bengals, Browns, Cardinals, and Saints fans, apologies. Now, what is changing from last year is we will not be covering player props in this video because this year I'm going to be doing an entirely separate video covering just player props only. So last year we didn't do a ton of player props here on the channel, but we did mix in a player prop every now and again. This year we'll have an entirely separate video where I go through the entire NFL slate and give you player props from pretty much every single game. So look out for that. That'll be out on Saturday morning, I believe. So unfortunately the Chargers, Chiefs, Eagles, Cowboys games will not be included in that video. But yeah, it'll at least cover all the Sunday games and the Monday game as well. All right, I think that covers just about everything. The only other thing I'll mention is if you have not seen it yet, I know today is the last day to basically put your futures bets in for a lot of these teams. But we do have our futures videos we did here for the Oracle last week. We did a full lengthy breakdown of the NFL team total wins over or under for all 32 NFL teams. We split that into 2 videos, AFC edition and NFC edition. If you haven't checked those out, check those videos out. They are up on the channel. We did a really long video for those, but a lot of great picks, a lot of great value in those videos as well. But yeah, enough said. We talked enough now. Let's go ahead and dive into our NFL Week 1 picks. Comment kickoff down below if you're watching today's video. Let me see who's back. Let me see who's riding with the Oracle for year 2 here at Guy Boston Sports. Guys, comment kickoff down below. Let's go ahead and dive into our Week 1 NFL picks. All right, guys. Here we go. I'm so excited for this. I've been dying for this for a while now. Our first game we're looking at here is tonight's game, the kickoff game of the 2025 season. We have the Dallas Cowboys visiting the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. We've got an 8:20 p.m. kickoff, I believe. 8:20 p.m. kickoff, but you know, with all the Super Bowl ceremonies, it probably will kick off a little bit later than that. And for my first official pick, whoa. That sounded like the Herbert from Family Guy there with the whistle and the talk. Jesus, our first official pick of the 2025 year might surprise some people, but I'm rocking here with the Dallas Cowboys plus 9.5 on the spread. I do want to say, guys, don't worry if you miss any of the picks. They will all be posted in the pinned comment down below, and I'll be doing that for every single week. You can also find over at GuyBostonSports.com all of our weekly plays we posted there, as well as in the pinned comments here. So if you do miss anything, I know it's going to be a longer video. We're going to have a lot of discussions here. Don't worry. We'll make sure to go ahead and put timestamps and the plays down below. All right, guys, so Cowboys plus 9.5 here. I'm grabbing it for minus 118 over on BetMGM. You do have a couple different options here, minus 125 on FanDuel, minus 130 on DraftKings. The actual line itself right now is around 8.5, 8 on most sports books. We can actually get 9.5 though for pretty good value. So I think the actual line itself is posted at 8.5. Again, I'm taking a little bit, I think it's like minus 105 or something like that. We're grabbing it for plus 9.5. At minus 118 is the best odds available to me. Now, a lot of you guys are probably going to click off this video right away because I just picked the Dallas Cowboys after trading Micah Parsons away against the reigning Super Bowl champion Eagles in Philadelphia. But I actually think this is a pretty good pick. First and foremost, Covering a spread this high is very, very difficult in week 1. Every team is shaking off rust. The preseason is not what it used to be, right? We used to have 4 preseason games, boys and girls who are a little too young to remember this, 4 preseason games, and we used to have more intense practices. The starters would at least suit up for 1, if not 2 of the preseason games. Over time, obviously, the preseason became devalued, and now it's 3 games a year for the preseason, and honestly, most of the starters never even touch the field once. What we've seen happen in the NFL since the preseason changes with the lesser games and the less intense practices, you've seen that in the early weeks of the year, a lot of these teams are struggling. It's basically their preseason week 1 and 2 of the regular season, right? A lot of these teams have rust to shake off. They're figuring out offenses. They have new pieces, new coordinators, a lot of new things in a lot of areas, and they're trying to figure it out basically on the fly. We've seen good teams struggle. Look at the Baltimore Ravens last year for a good example in week 2 versus the Raiders. That Raiders team was not good last year, and they stifled the Ravens in week 1. The Bengals, who were not a great team last year, but in week 1 got beat by a Patriots team that had the 3rd worst record in the NFL. So just a good example there of teams that come out the gate can struggle a little bit. The Eagles actually are a great example. Last year, remember like week 3 or 4, people were calling for Sirianni's head, right? There was questions if he'd be fired or not as the head coach of the Eagles. They go on to win the Super Bowl. So teams can struggle out the gate here, even the good teams, the best team. So naturally speaking, a 9.5-point spread, even if you are the Eagles and you are playing the Micah Parson-less Cowboys in week 1 at home, 9.5 points. To win this game by 10 or more, you're asking for a lot in the first game of the season. Now, one guy I want to go ahead and give a shout out to here is Evan Abrams. He's the director of research over at the Action Network. I will be using numbers from his articles a lot this year because he is a very insightful guy. I love reading his articles weekly because he has some really nice betting statistics to go ahead and share. So I will be using his numbers a lot. I want to make sure I give him the credit that it's due to him because he does a great job. For every single week, he goes through all the matchups, every team, and gives some betting trends, some historical data, stuff that take me hours and hours to do. He has it all there for us. So if you haven't, go check out the Action Network. They're not a sponsor of the video or anything. They just really are a great network, and they do offer some really great writers, including Evan Abrams. So one interesting nugget here that he wrote in his article is that Dak Prescott has made 129 total starts in his career. He's only closed as an underdog of 7 or more 5 times in his career, and he's 4-1 against the spread in those games. The only time he did not cover was actually versus the Eagles in 2016. He was a 6.5-point underdog, lost 27-13 to the Eagles. He has not really been an underdog of this nature that often in his career. This is actually the highest spread he's ever been in that I have recorded here, according to Evan Abrams. Again, 7.5 versus the Giants in 2018 and 7.5 versus the Eagles in 2018. Match it. My point being, Dak Prescott has rarely been an underdog of this much, and when he has been a massive underdog, he covers the spread. He also has a very good track record against the NFC East in his career. He actually has a 29-12 spread against the NFC East, covering the spread by almost 6.7 points per game. Again, that is from Evan Abrams of the Action Network. So you have a quarterback and a Cowboys team that with Dak Prescott, they really have not been underdogs in this scenario often, but when they have been, they cover the spread at the very least. And Dak Prescott in his career has been very successful at covering the spread against his division opponents. Now, I've been rambling on this game for a while now, so I'll get down to the clear, obvious point. Yes, the Eagles' offense is solid. Yes, their defense is solid. But I think a lot of people are forgetting with Dallas is that with Dak Prescott back, this offense should be pretty darn good. They still don't have a great running game, but the offensive line is still good enough. And you have Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. And yes, they lose Micah Parsons. But the Cowboys still have some playmakers on defense, especially in the secondary with Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs. They do have Kenny Clark now, who Jerry Jones was very happy about. So, look, with Dallas, like I said, I don't love them. I think the Eagles would definitely win this game. But I do like Dallas in this spot. And it's hard to go off of any numbers from last year because Dak obviously missed a ton of time last season. But we have seen that when Dak Prescott's healthy, at the very least, this offense could put up points. And yes, the Eagles are a very, 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 very solid defense. It's week 1. We'll see what happens there. So I do like this overall for the Cowboys. It's not an easy matchup by far. The Eagles obviously had the number 1 defense last year in terms of DVOA. But I think Dallas, with their offense, should be able to keep this game within 10 points in week 1. Eagles will win, but the Cowboys should be able to go ahead and keep it close. It's my first pick for the 2025 NFL season. And I promise, guys, not every single pick will be 7 minutes long. That one in particular, we had to spend a little extra time on because I figured a lot of people were going to be pretty upset about me taking the Cowboys there. All right, guys, the next game we're going to go ahead and take a look at here is Chargers-Chiefs, some Friday night football in Brazil. So it's a neutral field, little international game. I actually have 2 picks coming from this game. My first pick from this one, we have Chargers plus 3.5 on the spread here. We're going to go ahead and grab that for minus 125 over on FanDuel. So pretty good value there for Chargers plus 3.5. Now we're going to go ahead and jump to the outlier screen here for this one. So again, minus 125, Chargers plus 3.5. The first point I want to make here is the head-to-head data. And the reason why I like this game, first of all, I think it's going to be close. These teams are honestly very similar in the way they're built right now. Okay, the Chiefs, they have a solid defense, a questionable offense, I'll say. The Chargers are kind of in that same boat. Solid defense, some question marks on offense. Both teams have some change in the offensive line. For the Chargers, some more unfortunate changes with the Rashawn Slater injury. The Chiefs obviously kind of remade their offensive line again like they did when they lost to the Bucs in the Super Bowl way back when in 2020. They've rebuilt their offensive line again this past offseason. But some question marks come there. You also have 2 receiver cores that, again, are incredibly questionable. The Chiefs without Rashee Rice. You've got Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and aging Travis Kelce. How that will work out, we'll see. The Chargers, Ladd McConkey, really good young wide receiver. They bring Keenan Allen back. But beyond those 2, you've got a lot of question marks with guys like Quentin Johnson and Trey Harris. You really don't know. The Chargers don't really have a ton of great tight end options in terms of the passing game. Both teams have solid running games, but the Chargers have some more questions with the new running back room with rookie Mario Hampton, and Najee Harris. I want to make sure I was saying that right. But the moral of the story being very similar teams in this matchup. So you have 2 solid defenses, 2 offenses that are good on paper, but they do have some question marks here. The history seems to suggest this will be a close game. Now, looking at last year, the 2 times they played last season, the first game, you see it was a 19-17 game. Now, it is worth noting the Chiefs have actually won each of their last 5 matchups with the Chargers. Again, just looking at the last 5 matchups between the 2 teams, they've won all of the last 5. To be fair, though, a lot of close matchups. Now, last year, again, the Chiefs, 19-17, 2-point game. They also won 17-10, so obviously a 7-point game. But 4 of the last 5 matchups between the Chiefs and the Chargers has been decided by a 1-score game. So 7 points or fewer, 4 of the last 5 matchups. To narrow it even further, 3 of the last 5 matchups has been decided by 3 points or less. So these games, only the matchup on October 22nd in the year 2023, the Chiefs beat the Chargers by 14 points, 31-17. Besides that game, these games have all been pretty tight battles, some low-scoring, gritty battles that have been narrowly close. Week 1, I'm not going to say it every single game, but you obviously know you got a lot of rust to shake off. It's the first game of the year. There's a lot of kinks to work out on both the offense and defensive sides of the football. You're on a neutral field there in Brazil. Last year, the conditions were terrible for Eagles-Packers. I'm hoping they'll be better this year. But, that neutral field stuff, depending on how the field is, the conditions, that could affect the game in a lot of ways. Looking at the dashboard here over at GuyBostonSports.com, you can see kind of what I talked about, right? Both offenses were solid last year. Overall, the Chargers 13th ranked offense in terms of points per game. The Chiefs 12th overall in points per game. Actually, if we go down below here to the DVOA numbers, offensively, the Chiefs 8th last year in team DVOA offensively. The Chargers were 12th. So again, these are 2 solid offenses. Defensively, they were also very good as well. The Chiefs were 12th in defensive DVOA. The Chargers were 9th in defensive DVOA. And looking up above here, again, it makes sense. Look at the defensive numbers, scoring defense. The Chargers were number 2. The Chiefs were number 6. They're very evenly matched teams here. I think you're going to have a really tight battle. They're division rivals. They know each other very well. You got some 2 incredible coaches going head-to-head here with Andy Reid of the Chiefs, Jim Harbaugh of the Chargers, Mahomes versus Herbert. This is going to be a really fun Friday night game. Ultimately, again, I see this being a gritty, low-scoring game that's going to come down to a field goal. And so taking the Chargers at plus 3.5, especially from minus 125, the value is certainly there. I think taking the Chiefs at minus 3, you're taking a little bit of a gamble there. I don't really love the Chiefs this year, I'll be honest. They're going to be good. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be a Super Bowl contender. But I do think you saw it last year, the cracks in the foundation. They're still very much there. I know they fixed the offensive line in some ways, but this is an aging team in some ways. Chris Jones getting older, Travis Kelce getting older. I just have question marks with Kansas City. Their offense has not been all that impressive really since Tyreek Hill left. Now, they've been successful. They've won Super Bowls post Tyreek Hill, but their offense hasn't been as dynamic or as explosive as it was when they had Tyreek Hill. The wide receiver room has been questionable. They've had some decent receivers, but nothing sturdy and solid. But you can obviously say the same thing for the Chargers here. So, again, close game. I think taking the Chargers with the points at plus 3.5, it just makes a ton of sense here in this one. And then, guys, my second pick from this game, which I'm not going to really dive deeper into because I just kind of explained my case for it when talking about the spread pick, is the total in this game. I'm going with the under here at 46.5 for Chiefs Chargers. Again, like I mentioned, those games have all been pretty tight. And if you look back at those last 5 matchups, again, besides that October 22nd game where it was 31-17, or actually even the November 20th, 2022, which is 30-27, but we'll go ahead and look at a more narrow view. Each of the last 3 matchups, neither team has broken 20 points. So last year, 19-17, 17-10, and then January 7th of 2024 was 13-12. So the last 3 times these two teams played, neither team hit 20 points, and it's all been pretty tight. Like I said, 19-17, 17-10, 13-12. The 2 previous times before that, the Chiefs were able to put up some more numbers if you go back to 2022 and 2023. But again, the more recent view tells us these games are tight and very low scoring. Neutral playing site, first game of the year. I don't see why that would be any different in week 1. So I think the under of 46.5, great value. And let me just see what we're getting that for, just to go ahead and let you guys know what the value is there. We're grabbing it for minus 110 on FanDuel or DraftKings. So pretty good value on the under there of 46.5 as the third play in today's video. All right, guys, moving on. The next game we're going to go ahead and take a look at here is Steelers at Jets. We're now moving on to the Sunday slate, our first Sunday slate of the 2025 NFL season. We got a 1 p.m. kickoff here. Now, normally this game would be a nothing game. It'd be a game that if you're watching the quad box, if you have YouTube TV Sunday Ticket, you have the quad box, the 4 games. You'd probably just go ahead and knock this one off. You wouldn't include this one in there, but in this case, the narratives make this game kind of a must-watch. You have Aaron Rodgers going up against his former team, returning to the Jets. I don't know how much love there is for him in that building over in Jersey. So you've got the Aaron Rodgers narrative there going against his former team. You also have, on the Jets side, Justin Fields playing against his former team, the Steelers, that kind of gave up on him. So a lot of narratives there, mostly around Aaron Rodgers, but also the Justin Fields angle as well. This game was kind of tough. I do lean Jets in this game, but I'm not confident enough to go ahead and put it on my pick slate. Instead, what I'm going to go ahead and take here is the Steelers team total under 21.5 points. Now, I will be honest, there's a little bit of juice on this play. I'm grabbing it for minus 142 over on DraftKings. And actually, we can go ahead and switch over to the outlier screen here to discuss this play. So under 21.5 points, minus 142 over on DraftKings. There is statistical evidence taking last year's numbers into consideration for this play. This isn't just pulled out of my ass. There's actually a lot of numbers to support this. Now, you have to understand the offense was different last year, right? You had Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. You had George Pickens, not DK Metcalf. They were definitely changes. This offense was different last year. But if you watch HCH, which, by the way, our Week 1 picks video is out on the channel already, go ahead and check that out with myself and Ev. He likes the Steelers this year. I have never disliked the team more this year. I think the Steelers are going to be a dumpster fire this year, but that's just me. Is their offense really all that better, though? And that's my thing. Is like, yes, it's a different team. Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf basically swapped out for Russell Wilson and George Pickens. Is the team better? I don't think so. And if they are better, they're slightly better. Look at the numbers last year. Just look at the last 5 games to close out last season for the Steelers. They cashed this under in 5 straight games, averaging just 14.2 points per game over the last 5 games. And you look at the entire 2024 season, they cashed this team total under in 61% of their games last season, averaging 21.89 points per game. And if you look at some of the teams they played against where they cashed the over, it makes sense. 44 points versus the Bengals. That defense was terrible last year. 27 points versus the Browns. I mean, they're not a terrible defense, but they're not a great team. 37 points versus the Jets last year. How relevant will that be to this year? We'll see. The Jets also, massive differences. Aaron Glenn, now the new head coach, a whole new defensive scheme. The Jets honestly should have a top 10 defense in the league this year. They have a lot of talent, great coaching, great scheme. So I think they're going to be better this year. But, 32 points against the Raiders, 26 points against the Giants, 28 points versus the Commanders, and their defense was not great last year. The only game that was sort of impressive was the Colts one where they had 24 points because the Colts defense was decent last year. But again, the moral of the story being that the games where they cashed the over, a lot of those teams were not great teams and or had bad defenses. So that kind of makes sense. Now, naturally, Mike Tomlin in his career on the road, the unders have been hitting. I thought about taking the overall under in this game, but the line is so low. I think it's 38.5. It's a little bit low, especially when you have the Jets, who I don't love their offense, but you never know what they could do here in a revenge scenario. I think the Steelers team total under is the better play here. And looking at the Jets last year, their DVOA was not great, 20th in defense, but that team was a disaster. They had a coach firing mid-year. The defense actually in the first few weeks was actually very strong under Robert Saleh, and then it got a lot worse, a lot worse. If you go ahead and look here at the GuyBostonSports.com dashboard, look at the matchups based on opponent DVOA versus position. Look at the Steelers offense. Fairly tough matchups across the board here. Rodgers, Warren, look at that offense. Pretty tough matchups across the board. This Jets defense, although they were not great last year, again, they should be pretty much better this year. And the key thing is that Aaron Glenn, when he was with the Lions, blitzed heavily. He loved to blitz the quarterback. Guess what quarterback might struggle at this point in his career versus the blitz? How about Aaron Rodgers, who's in his 40s? The Steelers' offensive line, it's fine. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not anything special. I think that heavy blitz rate for a quarterback like Rodgers will not be that great. I think he could definitely struggle in that scenario. I think they're going to go after Rodgers, and rightfully so. I think the Jets fans are going to be all over him. It's going to be a rowdy crowd, a very interesting game. I do lean Jets in terms of picking a team there, but I'm not going to put them on the official book. Steelers under 21.5 points seems like the right play here. I think they're going to struggle to score, especially in week one. Playing devil's advocate, maybe as the year goes along, they figure some things out offensively, maybe. But for right now, I think it's going to be a struggle to start the year, especially in this matchup for the Aaron Rodgers revenge game. Give me the Steelers team total under 21.5 points. All right, guys, next up we got Bucs at Falcons. Again, Sunday, 1 p.m. Kickoff here. And this is one where I promise you guys we don't have to spend 5 or more minutes on this play. It's going to be the Bucs money line here, which I'm grabbing for minus 130 over on FanDuel. Now, I do want to say real quick, moving forward, these videos will be a little bit different. Now, I know today is a little bit tough. I have to talk a little bit more because we don't really have a lot to go off of in terms of numbers. Now, as the year goes along, as the weeks go along, we get some games in our rearview mirror. We're going to have numbers and data to go off of. It's just tough right now because it's week one. Teams are different. New coaches, new players, new schemes. It's tough to go off of old data. We can use a little bit of it for reference, but it's tough. So I just want to go ahead and let you guys know that we will be using more numbers and data analytics moving forward. But for week one, it's kind of tough when you don't really have any data that's relevant to go off of. So just wanted to go ahead and throw that point out to you guys. So Bucs money line, minus 130 on FanDuel. Again, we don't have to spend too much time on this one. I think the Falcons are getting way too overvalued this year. I don't really know why, to be honest. If we go ahead and jump over to the Guy Boston Sports dashboard. Now, again, it's tough because Atlanta has changed some things, right? Defensively, they should be a little bit better. But I don't really love this Falcons team. Overall, in terms of DVOA, they were 20th in total, 14th offensively. But this was the bottom five, one of the bottom 5 defenses in the NFL in terms of DVOA last year. 27th against the pass, 24th against the run. Although it could be better this year, it's still going to be a bottom 10 defense in the league. I don't love this this Falcons defense. The Bucs defense was not all that much better, but it was better. It was better, and they should be even better this year. So Tampa Bay, they've got a better defense, and honestly, they have a better offense. This is last year's numbers. Offensive DVOA, they were 7th. Defensive DVOA, 16. They had a very strong run defense. There's the pass defense that was a little more shaky. It's going to be solid. This still should be a top 10 offense in terms of DVOA, and it should be a better defense. I just don't get the Atlanta hype. I really don't. I think that Penix, could he be good? Yeah, but we don't really have much to go off of. He played 3 games last year. He started 3 games. We just don't really have much to go off of with him. And everybody I've talked to is just loving the Falcons, loving the Falcons, loving the Falcons. I get it. Tampa Bay, no Tristan Wirfs. Chris Godwin coming back from injury. They have some injuries on the offense. It's going to maybe slow them down a little bit. On the road, division rival. Maybe it'll be a closer game. But we're taking a money line. It doesn't matter what the spread is, right? Minus 130 on the money line. All Tampa Bay has to do is win this game. They should win this game easily. They should win this game. The Falcons' defense is not that good, and offensively, people are hyping them up. They weren't that good last year, and granted, I get it. Penix didn't play most of last year. Is it going to be that great? I just don't. Their strength was running the football. The Bucs' defense's strength last year was defensive run defense, right? 6th in terms of DVOA against the run. I just don't see. You're going to have to win this game with Penix in his arm, and maybe he comes out and shocks the world. Maybe he does. I haven't seen enough to warrant that, but what I have seen is that Baker Mayfield has put himself in the conversation as one of the possibly 10 best quarterbacks in the league. Definitely top 15 for sure, but at the very least top 15, if not top 10. They lose Liam Cohen. Maybe that's the big kick for the Buccaneers. People think that with Liam Cohen gone, the offense could struggle. I doubt it. I doubt it. Baker Mayfield's solid. They have a great number of weapons here on the offensive side of the football with Bucky Irving. Mike Evans is still around. Rookie Emeka Egbuka. Yes, they lose Tristan Wirfs, but the Falcons had no pass rush anyways to begin with. So what does that matter? I just really don't like Atlanta in this spot. I think they're being way overvalued. I even thought about taking the Bucs as an alternate spread in this game, but we're going to go play it safe here with the money line. I just don't really see how Atlanta wins this game. So give me the Bucs on the money line, minus 130. And by the way, I do know the Falcons won both matchups last year. I'm not oblivion to that, right? I know they won last year. But remember, in that time frame, that's when Tampa Bay had all their injuries. That's when they had no Mike Evans. Godwin's down. I mean, Baker Mayfield was, Jalen McMillan was his number one wide receiver. They had a ton of injuries on both sides of the football at this point in the year, and both of them were close games. Tampa Bay, and still actually kind of pretty banged up here. But that's when the Falcons had Kirk Cousins kind of in a better form that year before Kirk Cousins really started to decline. So, yeah, the Falcons won both matches, but I think Tampa Bay definitely takes this one. By the way, they're also 6-2 in their last 8 games as a favorite. Nice little stat to sprinkle in there. All right, guys, next up we have Dolphins at Colts, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. This is another one where I think I'm going to get a lot of hate for this pick, but I really do like it a lot. I'm going with the Colts here, plus 1.5 on the spread. Now, a little bit of juice here. It's minus 138 on FanDuel at the time of recording. So, again, not the sexiest play. I think the Colts are actually favored in this game by 1.5, but we're taking them as an underdog, plus 1.5 here, just to be safe. Look, I get it. Nobody loves Daniel Jones as the Colts starting quarterback. But you got to admit, this roster is pretty solid across the board. This is a really good defense. The offensive line, I wouldn't say it's as strong as it used to be. Still pretty strong. They've got some decent weapons. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor at running back. They've got a decent receiving core that includes Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. They have rookie tight end Tyler Warren that I really do like. The one honestly bad part of this team, they're just a quarterback away from being a solid playoff team. If we're being totally honest, that's been kind of the Achilles heel for this Colts team for years now, has been the quarterback position because they've done everything else pretty much right. And to be totally fair, I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy. Would I have stuck with Anthony Richardson? Personally, I would have, because he still has that high ceiling of being a good player. I probably would have gone ahead and stuck with Anthony Richardson. But I understand the move because the Colts want to win games. And honestly, I get going with Daniel Jones. As crazy as that might sound, he's playing a lot more games. He's won more games. And he was in a bad situation with New York. A lot of those teams he started for, they weren't great teams to begin with. This is probably the best team he's ever been a part of. Now, I know some Giants fans are going to be throwing things at their screen hearing that, but it's the truth. From top to bottom, they are solid across the board and everywhere. They put him in a pretty good situation. I like Shane Steichen as a coach. And I just have a lot of question marks here with Miami. Let's jump over the dashboard here over at GuyBostonSports.com. By the way, guys, the dashboard is available if you sign up, become a member. It's $6.99 a month for just the NFL dashboard. $10.99 a month to become an all-sports dashboard member, which means you have full access to our NFL and MLB dashboard, and eventually when the NBA dashboard comes along, that will be included too. So it's $6.99 just for the NFL. All these numbers here, they're updated for all the games, and we will update that regularly. Ev is constantly adding new wrinkles in here as well, some new data. And again, as the year goes along, these pages, I should say, will become far more important to us, because right now, all these numbers from last year, it's tough to completely use them when you're considering the changes each team has. But as the year goes along, these numbers will become far more important in these videos. So make sure to check that out. Link will be down below in the description. But also, if you want to go ahead and check it out, GuyBostonSports.com, become a member. And again, the NFL dashboard alone is $6.99 per month. All this information, all this data is available to you guys, or the All Sports Dashboard member, which gets you all of our dashboards for $10.99 a month. Now, the DVOA numbers from last year tell us these actually are pretty evenly ranked teams. The Colts 19th in total DVOA, the Dolphins 21st. You do see the Colts defense overall was 15th last year in terms of DVOA. The Dolphins was 19th. Honestly, the Colts offense, surprisingly, was actually better than the Miami Dolphins offense, 20th versus 22nd. But ultimately here, I just have a lot of question marks with the Miami Dolphins. On paper, they should be a really good team. Actually, we can go ahead and go back to that dashboard. Just look at their lineup here, right? Look at the Tua, Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. They brought Darren Waller out of retirement. I don't know how much I love that. But this is a really solid Dolphins offense. And on defense, too, they have some good pieces. So it's really tough to go ahead and bet against Miami. But after last year, I just have too many question marks. Mike McDaniel's play calling last year was baffling, to say the least. You have all these weapons on the field, and they just could not move the football. They were heavily relying on these screen plays and short passes, and I don't know what happened to the offense from 2 years ago where they were scoring 70 points in a game. Like, what happened to that offense? I don't know if they can get back to it. Hopefully they do. You got the two-way health stuff. That's more of a season outlook kind of thing, more than a game-by-game outlook. And the Dolphins' defense actually was decent last year in terms of a scoring defense number, but again, the DVOA showed us they weren't really all that great. And their answer to their defense was, let's get a bunch of veterans and plug them in. Guys like Rasul Douglas. They do bring back Minkah Fitzpatrick, which I do actually like that move, especially swapping him for Jalen Ramsey. But even offense, like their answer for a lot of their problems was, let's plug in an older guy. Let's plug in a veteran that's their best years are behind them. You know, we trade away Jonnu Smith. I don't really know why he did that because he was a solid fit with them offensively last year. Let's go bring in Darren Waller, who hasn't played in a few years, and even when he did play with the Giants last time out, wasn't all that impressive. So the Dolphins, they could be a really good team. They have the components to be a really good team, but after last year, my faith in them is shaken. The Colts are not a great team by any means, but they were an 8-win team last year. I think Daniel Jones is a good enough quarterback where he could get them to a win in this spot, or at least keep the game manageable and close. The Colts did beat the Dolphins last year when these two teams played. I do believe Tua was out, though, when they played, so take that with a grain of salt. I know this pick is definitely one of the more riskier picks on my board this week, but I like Indianapolis. I think Daniel Jones is going to shock some people here. I think he just needs to be decent. He doesn't need to be great. He doesn't need to be even good, honestly. Just be mediocre to average, and you should be able to get a win here versus Miami. I think the Colts defense should be able to take care of the rest. And I think offensively, the Colts offense is a little bit undervalued. They have weapons. Like I said, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren, Jonathan Taylor. It's a pretty good offensive personnel. And Daniel Jones, honestly, with those weapons, with the offensive line he has now, he should be able to operate here. So I do like the Colts plus 1.5 here on the spread for this game. Next up, guys, we got Giants at Commanders. I'm going with the Commanders here on the spread, minus 4.5 points. Look, I am one that I even said in my futures video, I think the Giants are going to be better than people think. They have a solid defensive front. On offense, Russell Wilson's not great, but you give him the pieces he has here with Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterbo, and their offensive line isn't terrible. They should be better. But now we've gotten to a point where the market has overvalued the Giants now. So many people are betting on the Giants that the Commanders have actually become undervalued in this play. The line opened at like 6.5 for the Commanders. Is now dropping down, and we can get it here from minus 4.5 from minus 135 over on DraftKings. I think the actual line itself is 5.5 right now. But again, the line is dropping because people keep betting the Giants. The public keeps betting the New York Football Giants. And while I do understand it, and the games were very close last year between these two teams, I do like Washington here. They're at home. This team did go to an NFC Championship game last year, and they took that team that was really good and improved upon it, right? Adding Larry Tunsil at offensive tackle, adding wide receiver Deebo Samuel. They took that really solid team from last year and made it better. They're at home. I just question. I understand the Giants' defensive front. I understand the Commanders' offensive line had struggles last year. That's why they brought in Larry Tunsil from Houston. But again, it is the New York Giants we're talking about. It is Russell Wilson at the end of the day. And yes, their defensive front is solid, but their secondary has some question marks. I think the Commanders are clearly the better team here. You give them the home field advantage. I think this team, I feel like a lot of people, including myself, I think they're not going to be necessarily as good as they were last year. I feel like they had a bit of a Cinderella feel to them last year. But this team is still solid. And again, they improved upon what was a good year last year. I just think they've been completely undervalued in this spot. Now, minus 4.5 to me is such great value. The Giants, they're not a great team. They're going to be a frisky team. They're going to be a tough play. I don't think you're going to want to play that pass rush, and you're not going to want to play the Giants. They're not going to be like last year where they were a pushover team, but they're also not a good team still. And I think Washington minus 4.5, the value is just too good to go ahead and pass up there. Offensively, Washington was incredible last year. They should be, again, very, very strong this year. When the number was 6.5 points, even 7 points, I understood taking the Giants at like plus 7 or plus 6.5. But 4.5 points to me, it's just way too close. Again, the last time these two teams played, Washington did win 27-22. So they did cover the spread the last time they played. The first time they played last year, although the Giants did cover that spread of 4.5 points. Again, this is what I mean where the numbers from last year is really tough to go off of anything, because if we go over the dashboard and guide Boston Sports, the Giants were 28th in total DVOA, 28th offense, 28th defense. They're going to be better on both sides of those balls because they have a better option at quarterback. They are going to be better defensive with Abdul Carter. like those numbers are not going to be totally relevant. They're going to be better than this. How much better is the question, but definitely better. Same thing with Washington. Their offense was 6th overall in DVOA. It should be probably somewhere around there, I would assume. But the defense, which was 23rd, that should improve this year. So, again, it's just really tough to go off the numbers. But the big question for me with the Giants, honestly, offensively especially, is after Malik Neighbors, what do you got? Wando Robinson, Darius Slayton, Theo Johnson at tight end. They don't have a ton of great weapons in the passing game. But I do like Tyrone Tracy, obviously. I do like Malik Neighbors. Again, if this line jumps back up, I probably avoid it. But for -4.5, I think it's too good to pass up on. So give me the Commanders here, -4.5. All right, guys, next up we're going Panthers at Jaguars. Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff. I actually have 2 picks coming from this game. Our first pick, we got Jacksonville Jaguars on the spread, -3 points. We're grabbing that from -125 over on BetMGM. I would bet this up to 3. You could take it for 2.5 as well. 3.5 and above, that's where I get a little bit risky there. And I do like Jacksonville in this spot, but I think anything above 3, I wouldn't bet. You can go to 2.5. You could go to even 1. I think the Jaguars win this game. You can get it for 2.5 right now over on DraftKings for -148, a little juice. So -3 on BetMGM obviously is the best option, but 2.5 or 3. Once you get to 3.5, that's where I start to get a little bit questionable with this game. I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty high on Jacksonville this year. I think with the addition of new head coach Liam Cohen, this team should be massively improved offensively at least. Still some legitimate questions defensively for sure, but I do like the look of the offense. Look, Liam Cohen took Baker Mayfield in Tampa and created an offense that was really phenomenal last year. Even when they lost pieces, even when Mike Evans went down and Chris Godwin went down, the offense still was moving. Baker Mayfield was still operating and dealing. So that's what you like to see. Now he goes to Jacksonville. He has the task of taking Trevor Lawrence, who, let's be honest, I think this is not a surprise to say, he's been a massive disappointment thus far in his career. Liam Cohen now has to take Trevor Lawrence and take that offense that should have been good last year but wasn't and make it good. Now, to be fair, he's got some good pieces. Lawrence, I do think, can be a good quarterback in this league. I just think he hasn't had the best option. I mean, some of it's on him. He has to put some of the blame on him, but the offensive line was abysmal last year. In years past, the weapons weren't great. You're now at this point where the offensive line still isn't great, but it should be a little bit better. You've got Brian Robinson Jr., who emerged as a solid weapon for this team last year. Brian Thomas Jr., I think I said Brian Robinson Jr., I apologize. Brian Thomas Jr., at wide receiver. He obviously became a super weapon for this Jaguars team last year. They draft Travis Hunter this year, which he should add another wrinkle to this offense. They still have Travis Etienne. They still have Tank Bigsby. There are still certainly some question marks here with the Jaguars, but I do think Liam Cohen can get the job done. I do, although his opening presser, the Duval, was super cringy, as mine was just cringy. His was cringier. I do think he's going to be able to fix this Jaguars offense a bit. Now, the other reason why I really like Jacksonville in this spot, if we go over to the GuyBostonSports.com dashboard, is take a look at the Panthers' defense last year. Scoring defense, 32nd in the NFL. You see a lot of red. Rushing yards allowed per game, 32. Rushing play percentage, 32. Passing yards per game, 25. Like, this was a bad defense. And if you go down to DVOA, 30th in DVOA total, 32nd. This was the worst defense in the NFL last year in terms of DVOA. 32nd against the run, 31st against the pass. Really, really, really bad. That spells very good for Trevor Lawrence in his first start under this new offense. There's no better cushion to start the year off than taking on this Carolina Panthers defense, which, granted, there will be slight improvements, but this team did not do enough in the offseason defensively to take away from that 32nd DVOA. This is still a bottom 10 defense in the league. It maybe got a little bit better, but it's still really, really bad. Add to the fact that Liam Cohen, coming from the NFC South, he has experience with the Panthers. He knows exactly what to do with this Panthers defense. I think Trevor Lawrence in this Jaguars offense should be able to score a healthy amount of points in this game. And the Jaguars defense wasn't much better, right? They were 31st in defensive DVOA. They were 25th against the run, so their run defense was better. Their pass defense, 32nd. Their defense is nothing to write home about, but at the end of the day, I do trust the Jaguars offense a little bit more than I do the Panthers offense. Now, Carolina, they have some pieces there, right? Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, rookie Ted McMillan. They have some injuries at the wide receiver spot, which is where I get a little bit concerned. Xavier Legette, David Moore being the wide receiver 3 right now is very much concerning. Jatavion Sanders, a little bit unproven at tight end. So I have more question marks with the Panthers offense than I do the Jaguars, to be honest. I think Brian Thomas, he really solid. Travis Etienne, I think, could have a bounce back year here. Travis Hunter, we don't really know what to make out of him, but obviously I think playing along with Brian Thomas should help him out a lot. I like Brenton Strange at tight end. But yeah, I think the Jaguars have a really solid matchup on their hands here. And I think -3 is a really good spread. I think they're going to win this game by at least 3 points. It should actually be close because, again, the Jaguars' defense is not good enough to let them blow this team out because, again, Carolina, with the brave Bryce Young finished up last year, he should be able to go ahead and put some points up. But I do like the Jaguars a little bit more, and to me, their -3 is the better play. Liam Cohen, experience against the NFC South, experience against the Panthers, Trevor Lawrence, new offense, new weapons. I think Jacksonville is the play here. And my second play from this game is the Panthers-Jaguars over 46.5, which I'm grabbing right now. Let me go ahead and make sure those odds are correct and up to date. -115 over on DraftKings, so over 46.5. Again, like I just mentioned, two really bad defenses, two young and interesting offenses. It is early in the year. Usually your offenses aren't fine-tuned, but to be fair, neither are your defenses. So they could see a lot more breakdowns in coverage, a lot more breakdowns defensively in general. And when these teams break down, it's especially abysmal, being two of the worst defenses in the league. Again, both defenses should be slightly better this year, but we're talking going from 32nd in DVOA to like 29th. And for the Jaguars, 31st to 28th. Like, this is not... Both of these teams are still very weak defensively. I do think this is a game where, especially both teams have decent running backs. Like, I think, Chuba Hubbard could have a day. Travis Etienne could have a day. Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young could both throw a few touchdowns here. 27-21 cashes this over. I think a 27-21 outcome in this game is very, very, very realistic with these offenses, with how bad these defenses are. 27-21 Jacksonville, honestly not a bad score, and it cashes the over. So I think the over is definitely the right play in this one. In Duval, expect a lot of touchdowns in this one with two offenses that are going to be better against defenses that are still really, really bad. All right, guys, next up we got Raiders at Patriots, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. We're going Pats team total over here, 22.5 points. We're grabbing it for -125 over on DraftKings, also available on BetMGM for -125 and FanDuel for -130. As always, guys, make sure to go ahead and shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. It's very important in terms of finding value on these bets. Now, I'm going to be totally honest. The data from last year is terrible when it comes to the Pats team total over. They only cashed this over 3 of 17 games last season. I'm really banking on this offense taking a massive leap forward this year with the return of offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. They finally got Drake May some help, bringing in Stephon Diggs. They improved the offensive line, bringing in rookies Jared Wilson and Will Campbell. They also bring in Morgan Moses and Garrett Bradbury, some other pieces there. So I think the Pats offensive line is going to be massively improved. They have rookie Travion Henderson, who I am crazy about right now, despite the fact that he hurt my heart when Ohio State beat Notre Dame in the national championship. I am very much looking forward to this Pats offense. And Drake May in year 2, hoping he'll take that next step in his progression. Again, these are two teams that went over major changes. Both have new head coaches. So going off of numbers from last year is honestly pointless because the schemes, the style, everything's going to be new and different. So it's really tough when, like I said, talking about these games when you don't really have anything to go off of other than offseason moves and vibes, basically, is all you really have to go off of. Whole new systems in place, new offenses, new defenses. What I'm really banking on here is that New England's offense takes that massive leap with all the new weapons, with Stephon Diggs, with Travion Henderson, with Mac Hollins and rookie Efton Chisholm, and the offensive line improvements. I'm hoping that New England's offense should be able to go ahead and score here. Now, again, this team did not score much last season overall. They were 30th, bottom 3 in the NFL in terms of points per game, just 17 points per game. And honestly, even going towards the end of the year, it didn't really improve all that much. But I'm also really banging on the Raiders' defense being poor. Yes, the Raiders have Max Crosby. Every time I say the Raiders have a poor defense, I all hear is Max Crosby, Max Crosby. He's one person. This Raiders' defense is not that good. Looking at last year's numbers, they were 25th in scoring defense in the NFL, giving up 25.5 points per game last season. Now, in terms of DVOA, they actually weren't awful. 18th overall in defensive DVOA, 19th against the pass, 18th against the rush. Those aren't good numbers, but they aren't as terrible numbers considering where their points per game were in terms of defensive points allowed per game. The DVOA actually was better than I was expecting. But still, this is not a very good Raiders defense. It's one of the least talented defenses in the NFL. Going up against a Pats offense that is massively improved. And you also have the little angle in there, I don't know if anyone forgot, with Josh McDaniels, right? Former Raiders coach. That obviously whole experiment went disastrously. A little bit of a revenge spot for Josh McDaniels going up against his former team. You got to think he's going to want to pile it on a little bit. They need to score 23 points. 23 points, and the Pats go ahead and cover this line. That's 3 touchdowns and a field goal, or 2 touchdowns and a bunch of field goals, right? The moral of the story being, I think New England scoring 23 or 24 points is pretty realistic here. I don't know if they win the game. I originally liked the Pats on the spread, but they've got some injuries on defense right now that make me a little bit concerned. I also don't really know what to think of the Raiders and their new look offense and whatnot. So I think the Pats team total over 22.5 points makes the most sense for me here. This offense is going to be massively improved, and their matchup with a defense here that I just don't love all that much. So 23 points to me seems very gettable, even in week 1. So I like the Pats team total over 22.5 points here. All right, guys, next up, we got 49ers at Seahawks. We're now moving into the mid-afternoon or late afternoon slate on Sunday. 4:05 p.m. kickoff for this game. We've got 49ers at Seahawks. I'm going with Seattle on the spread here, +3. Now, there's definitely some juice on this line. Right now, it's -140 on BetMGM. You have Hard Rock Bet -135. You could go ahead and do plus 3.5 is -150 on DraftKings, also an option. You could do plus 2.5, which is -108. I just think that 3-point number is very, very important here because this could be a very tight game. But I got to be honest, guys, I'm loving Seattle this year. Their defense last year was very, very much improved. Now, overall, if we go ahead and jump over to the dashboard here on Guy Boston Sports, you'll see Seattle's defense last year was 12th in points per game overall. Over the last 3 games, though, this defense really got going late in the season. Last 3 games, they were a top 5 scoring defense in the NFL. You see all their numbers looking really, really, really solid there, which you definitely like to see. And offensively, they were fine last year. If we go down to the DVOA numbers, defensively, Seattle, they had a top 10 defense in terms of DVOA, 11th against the pass, 12th against the run. Offensively, they were 18th overall, 17th in passing offense, 19th in rushing offense. Again, that's in terms of DVOA. Look, I think the Seahawks offense is what kind of concerns me a little bit with Sam Darnold, who obviously had a phenomenal year last year with Minnesota. Now he comes over to Seattle, not exactly the same circumstances. He's got some pretty decent weapons around him. Kenneth Walker, running back, Cooper Kupp, and Jackson Smith-Njigba at wide receiver. But they have some question marks in the offensive line. He's not the most mobile quarterback. Geno Smith was a little bit of a better fit in terms of his ability to move around a little bit with his offensive line. It's going to be tough. Darnold's going to have to get used to getting rid of the ball early and often. But I think Seattle's defense is so damn good that it's going to keep them in a lot of these games. And all Darnold has to do is be somewhat decent or somewhat close to where he was last year. And he should be good to go. The 49ers, honestly, this bet is just as much as I like the Seahawks. It's about fading the 49ers. I don't know what to make of this team. They lost a lot in the offseason, and they have a lot of injuries to start this year, as typically the Niners do. They lose Deebo Samuel. They trade him away. Brandon Ayuk is not healthy. You got a lot of unproven young wide receivers you're going to be calling upon here. The running back room, they do add Brian Robinson Jr. from the Commanders. McCaffrey, at least to start the year, seems to be healthy. But that wide receiver room, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Russell Gage are your 3 wide receivers. That's not great. And Brock Purdy, we've seen his career struggle when he does not have all of his weapons by his side. No Ayuk. Obviously, Debo's gone. He still has George Kittle, and McCaffrey is back. But this Seahawks defense could slow these guys down. Their passing game is going to struggle early in the year, at least until Ayuk returns, I think. You're going to see the passing offense struggle. And defensively, the 49ers last year, they were still solid, but you could start to see the cracks in the foundation. Their run defense in particular, really, really weak. And the Niners lost pieces on both sides of the football last year. So I have a lot of question marks with the 49ers right now, and I think the Seahawks are just a better team. They're at home, too. Home dog, +3, week 1, division rivalry game. This game's going to be close naturally. So if you're giving me a close game, the Seahawks at home, we know Seattle, typically they've had a pretty good home field advantage over the years. That defense, that offense against a Niners team that's really trying to still figure things out. Now, they're incredibly well coached by Kyle Shanahan, and we know that. But I just think Seattle taking the points at home just seems so much smarter. Like, even if the Seahawks lose this game, I think they're going to lose it pretty close. I think this is a potential push category here with +3. I just don't know what to make of the 49ers in Seattle. Again, their defense should be one of the best defenses in the NFL this year. As long as offensively they are okay, they should be a really good team this year. At home, division rivalry game. Give me the Seahawks with the points, +3. Next up, guys, we got Titans at Broncos, 4:05 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. Give me the Titans-Broncos under 42.5 points, which we're grabbing for -110 over on DraftKings. A lot of options for this one in terms of what sports books you want to go ahead and bet it on. Look, I actually did prefer taking Broncos spread originally, and then the line jumped to 8.5, and I'm like, nope, week 1. We talked about it earlier, like 40 minutes ago. This video is running very long. Apologies for that, but it's week 1. But Eagles-Cowboys, these high spreads, very dangerous in week 1. But I don't feel comfortably enough about the Titans to take them +8.5 here. I think the under, honestly, is the right play in this matchup. Denver, we know defensively one of the best teams in the NFL last year. They were 4th overall in terms of defensive DVOA, If we go ahead over to the dashboard here on Guy Boston Sports, we can go ahead and take a look at that. Overall, 6th best team in the NFL in terms of DVOA general rankings, combining offense and defense. Looking at defensive DVOA specifically, 4th overall. They were 5th against the pass, number 1 against the run. So really, really good defense there for Denver. They also have an incredible home field advantage, obviously, with playing in Mile High Stadium, playing with that high altitude in Denver. But Tennessee also defensively, offensively, they were a disaster last year. But defensively, they actually weren't terrible. 17th in the NFL in terms of defense DVOA. Again, they weren't a great team, but they weren't a terrible one either. 24th against the pass. They were actually pretty good against the run. 16th against the run. So where I'm leaning and why I'm taking the under here, first and foremost, I think the Denver side is very self-explanatory. You have one of the 5 best defenses in the NFL, which now have gotten better. They might be the best defense in the NFL. At home, week 1, taking on a rookie quarterback in his first start. What a horrible spot for Cam Ward to start his NFL career. On the road, in Denver, against this defense, week 1. It's really rough. And I don't really love the offensive personnel around him. The offensive line is fine, not great. You know, Calvin Ridley is wide receiver 1. You got Lockett and Van Jefferson. It's not a great wide receiver room. It's okay. Tony Pollard at running back. It's just not a great personnel around him just yet with this matchup. I think he's going to struggle. I think the Titans offense will struggle in this game. But all that being said, I don't know if Bo Nix and the Broncos will necessarily have a crazy big game here because, again, the Titans defense was pretty solid. They also have some new pieces. J.K. Dobbins at running back. They also have the rookie running back. That name is escaping me right now. And I still don't love their weapons, honestly. They bring in Evan Ingram at tight end, which I do like. I picked them up in a lot of fantasy leagues. But they're still relying on Cortland Sutton a lot, where after that, it's Marvin Mims. We're still waiting on him to kind of have a breakout. And then it's Troy Franklin. So it's not a great receiving core for Denver. I just think this will be a lower scoring affair. Again, the total is set at 42.5. I don't think Tennessee contributes more than 14 points here, which means that Denver, in order for this over to hit, would have to score like 30. Well, actually, the numbers, 30 points. 30 to 14 would cash the over, be 44 at the total. So you need Denver to contribute 30, which I guess they could do here, but Tennessee's defense is solid enough. Week 1 also, you're going to have a lot of rust on the offense. I just don't see this being a high-scoring game for Denver, and I definitely don't see it being a high-scoring game for Tennessee. So I think the under 42.5. This game, honestly, to me, feels much like a 27-13 game where it's going to be close. They'll get around 40. Denver will obviously do the heavy lifting with the scoring, but I just don't see Tennessee contributing more than 2 touchdowns here. So give me the under 42.5 here for Titans Broncos. All right, guys, next up we have Texans at Rams, 4:25 p.m. kickoff. We're going with the Texans +3 here on the spread. We're grabbing that from -110 right now over on FanDuel. I talked about this pick a little bit in H2H, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. Ultimately, I think Houston's defense is so damn good. I think the Rams could struggle in this spot. There are just a lot more question marks right now with the Rams than there are the Texans. The Texans had a bit of a down year last year, specifically on the offensive side of the football. But this defense was so damn good last year. One of the best in the NFL. And offensively, they can't get much worse than they were last year. It should be better. I still have some serious concerns about the offensive line for sure. But Stroud in year 3, new offensive coordinator. You get your weapons back. Nico Collins is back. Remember, he had so many injuries at wide receiver last year. Jumping over to the dashboard screen here. Again, look at that offense for Houston. Stroud, they bring in Nick Chubb at running back. Joe Mixon obviously out right now. He'll be back later in the year. But you have Nick Chubb. Nico Collins is back. You add Christian Kirk in the offseason. You add rookie Jaden Higgins in the offseason. You still have Dalton Schultz. Their offense looks better from a personal standpoint. I hope from a play calling standpoint, it should be much better. The offensive line is still a massive concern here for Houston, but I think it's good enough for now that they'll be able to at least improve offensively. And again, this defense last year was the 3rd best defense in the NFL in terms of DVOA. Offensively was pretty bad, but that 26th rank is going to be much better. They're going to be able to run the ball a little bit better. They're definitely better at throwing the football here. And the Rams defense, they got a lot of talk last year about how rookie Jared Verse, and he was very good, and they were better than expected. But this defense honestly wasn't great. 26th in DVOA, 25th against the pass, 21st against the run. Maybe you'll see some improvements there. This is a young defense that is getting better as time goes on. They were, in terms of scoring defense, 15th in the NFL last year. But I don't love the defense. And on top of that, Matt Stafford, yes, he's got a decent matchup, it says here, which I don't know how that works because the Texans defense is insanely good. But is he even healthy? I don't really know what to make of it. I just think, and they have weapons, obviously Puka, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams. They've got a solid offensive pieces. But last year, the Texans brought pressure. You look at the pressure/blitz rate here, the pressure rate, right? Frequency, 32.55%. That's the 11th ranked frequency rank in the NFL in terms of pressure. You look at Matt Stafford last year versus pressure, 9.2 attempts per game. Really low numbers. Completion percentage drops yards per attempt. Everything drops versus pressure. They're going to put pressure on him. Make no mistake. They're going to put pressure on him. I expect them to run a little bit more man. They did run zone more frequently, but I think in this matchup, obviously, I think they'll adjust and run a little bit more man defense here. I think that Matt Stafford at this point in his career, he's made a glass at this point, and I think this Texans defense is not the matchup you want to see if you're the Rams with Matthew Stafford. He's going to get hit. That's not going to be good for him. He's going to be under pressure most of the game, I feel like. I just don't love the Rams in this spot. So you give me Texans plus points here, +3. They're going to keep the game close. Even if the Rams offensively do something, I think Houston offensively will be able to do enough to keep this game close. So I like the Texans here, +3 on the spread. All right, guys, we are going here. This is obviously, we started off slow. We had a really slow start. The first few picks were taking a while. We spent 7 minutes on the Cowboys, 6 minutes on the Chargers game. So, we've definitely sped up a little bit here later on. But we have a couple picks left, 3 picks, and then we're going to go short this week because of time with the parlays and teasers. But we do have Lions money line here as the next play. We have Lions Packers in Lambeau Field, 4:25 p.m. kickoff. We're going Lions money line here, +124 on DraftKings, so it's a plus money play. I think that this is a typical spot where, the Packers obviously, they'll get Micah Parsons. Everybody's going to be riding on the Packers, right? Everyone's going to be saying Packers. Listen, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl before they traded for Micah Parsons. I like this Packers team before Micah. Now they got Micah, obviously they're even more attractive as a team. All that being said, though, I do think that the Lions could shock. But I think everyone's so low on Detroit this year, and I totally get it. I understand it completely. They lost to both their coordinators. They have lost on the offensive line. Their defense was not great, and I don't know how great it's going to be. To be fair, though, the Lions did win both these matchups last year. They beat the Packers both times they played last season, so take that into consideration there. But beyond that, Detroit's still a very strong team. Offensively, they have some question marks in the offensive line, a new offensive system with no longer having Ben Johnson, but you still have Goff, you still have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. You still have a lot of the weapons there. I just like Detroit. I think Detroit's still a solid team. I don't think they're going to be a 15-win team. I don't think they're going to be the juggernaut they were last year. But let's be careful. Let's be cautious here. They were dominant on the road last year as well. Obviously, they only lost 2 games in the regular season. Of course, they're going to be dominant. They were very dominant on the road last year. They actually had a 100% win rate on the road last season, which is very, very impressive. They were the second best team in the NFL in terms of DVOA. They actually, for all the chatter about their defense, they actually had a top 5 defense in terms of DVOA. Now, they had a lot of injuries last year, and that's kind of what contributed to their defense falling apart in the latter half of the season. You see the last 3 for Detroit. Their passing defense in particular, they gave up 247 passing yards per game on the season. Last 3, they were dead last. Their last 3 games of last year, actually, I can show you guys this over on the dashboard. Last 3 games of the year, look at Detroit, 27th in points per game. They were, sorry, I had a brain fart there. 27th in points per game, 32nd in passing yards per game, 25th in pass play percentage. They were 16th against the run. Moral of the story, the last 3-4 weeks of the year, their defense completely fell apart. But if you do look at their overall numbers, they were solid. 11th in points per game. Now, the passing numbers were down all year long. You could throw on Detroit. But the moral of the story being, they had a lot of losses defensively due to injury. Aiden Hutchinson's back. They have a lot of those pieces they lost back. They're going to be healthier coming into this year than they were last year. The offense, again, the key thing here is they lose Aaron Glenn, they lose Ben Johnson. What does that look like now with those 2 coordinators gone? They still have a lot of talent. I think that the Detroit Lions are still in a very, very strong spot. Green Bay, they bring in Micah Parsons. That's going to change the whole makeup of their defense. They only traded for Micah less than a week ago, so you're going to have to figure that stuff out. I think that Green Bay, there's a lot to figure out there. And I think week 1, yes, you're at home. I just think there's so much hype offensively. They have a lot of new pieces there with rookie Matthew Golden. I just think there's a lot to figure out for Green Bay. I also think that the public is so heavy on Green Bay. It just makes sense to go ahead and zag and fade them here, at least for week 1. Again, I think they're going to have a phenomenal season, but I think right now, fading the Packers, riding with the Lions is the right play. Detroit, they are well coached by Dan Campbell. I think they're going to be pissed off coming into this game because everybody, if you listen to anybody talking about Detroit this year, the number one thing you hear is they're going to fall off. They're going to fall off. They're going to fall off. Take the Lions here week 1. You're getting plus money, a 15-win team from last year plus money. Give me the Lions on the money line. I love them a lot in this spot, at least for week 1. Next up, guys, our second to last straight bet pick here. We have Sunday Night Football, Ravens-Bills in Buffalo, New York. And guys, if you watch H2H, some of my favorite plays of the week, I'll do it again here. Ravens money line. I doubled down on them over on the Fade Me video, or not the Fade Me pick, excuse me. on one of my picks on H2H. Sorry, guys. When you've been recording for an hour now, fatigue starts to settle in. But what I was trying to say was that, on H2H, obviously I was very heavy on this Ravens team, and for good reason. I think Buffalo, kind of similar to Green Bay, where they're a great team. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, just like the Packers. I'm not trying to take anything away. But I do think that right now, the public is so heavy on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills and all this stuff that Baltimore has become undervalued, and it makes them more valuable for us, right? Minus 112 on FanDuel is this money line play. I think this is a coin toss game, and honestly, I kind of prefer Baltimore here. Yes, Buffalo beat Baltimore last year in that playoff game, but if we're being honest here, Baltimore was kind of the better team. Just some stupid mistakes, some drop passes, some bad turnovers cost them there. But Baltimore honestly could have won that game, and they did play twice last year. They played in September of last year. The Ravens killed Buffalo 35-10, and then obviously in that playoff game, they lost by 2. 2 points in a game where Baltimore had 3 turnovers. They had multiple drop passes. Really rough spot. But again, those were bad mistakes that they did themselves. They could have beaten Buffalo. Even with the turnovers, as long as Mark Andrews catches a couple of passes, the Ravens win that game. Or at least force overtime at the very least. And maybe they win in overtime. In terms of the numbers, these are 2 really good teams. Obviously, Baltimore was the number 1 team in terms of DVOA last year. What I like them, I think offensively, the Ravens are a better bet slightly. I do like Buffalo. They have a great offense. I'm not trying to take away from them, like I said. Great offense, solid defense. But Baltimore had the number 1 passing offense and number 1 rushing offense in terms of DVOA last year. If we go ahead and look at the screen here on the dashboard. So really solid offense, and they were top 10. They were 6th overall in DVOA defense, but they were 6th. So top 10 defense in the NFL in terms of DVOA. 8th against the pass, 4th against the rush. I just like this defense a little bit more than I do Buffalo's defense. And I think the Ravens got better this year. Like, I don't think Buffalo's defense, I don't know if I'd say they're better this year than they were last year. I think Baltimore's defense is better. They had Jair Alexander, the secondary, so their pass defense should be better. I like Baltimore a lot. I think they're going to be able to slow Buffalo down. They have been able to the last couple matchups, slow them down a little bit. And again, I have question marks with Buffalo's receiving core. You got to hope that Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman can take another step in their progression. Otherwise, this receiving core is kind of weak. And Baltimore's isn't much better, but you have some experience there with DeAndre Hopkins. Zay Flowers, I think, popped off last year. Mark Andrews is starting to fade away, but they do have Isaiah Likely there in the waiting room. And Derrick Henry, obviously, we know what he can do. So, and the Bills' defense, 14th run defense. Sorry, guys, excuse me. 14th against pass and against the run in terms of DVOA. And if you look at the defensive numbers on the year for Buffalo from the season perspective, rushing yards per game, they were 13th, passing yards per game, 21st. This defense, not the most elite defense in the league, but to be fair, Baltimore also gave up a healthy amount of passing yards per game there as well. But yeah, like I said, it's basically a coin flip game, but ultimately I do like the Ravens in this spot with the money line here for minus 112. I think the value is on Baltimore. Give me the Ravens for the revenge game here in Buffalo, New York. All right, guys, in our final pick for this Week 1 NFL slate, we're going to go ahead and rock with the Chicago Bears here on the money line. It is a plus money play. Plus 102 over on DraftKings there for the Bears money line. Look, Chicago is going to be a massively improved team. Minnesota, it's really tough because their team was phenomenal last year. Defensively, really phenomenal team. Offensively, they're loaded with weapons, although they're a little bit injured right now offensively. There's a lot to like with Minnesota. The question here is, what is J.J. McCarthy? What can he do? What does he bring to the table? He's essentially a rookie quarterback. This is essentially his first career NFL start. Monday Night Football, prime time in Chicago, division rivalry game. Kind of a tough first start for J.J. McCarthy. The Bears are going to be massively improved. This is a solid Bears defense. They've massively improved the offensive line. They've got solid weapons around Caleb Williams. It all comes down to Caleb Williams now under new head coach Ben Johnson. I think the Bears are going to be a lot better than last year. I do like Minnesota. I think as long as McCarthy can can be halfway decent, they should still be a playoff contending team. I just think Week 1, first career start with this Bears team with a lot to prove on the line. And again, Ben Johnson, a coach who knows this Vikings team very well. I got to see him firsthand a lot as the offensive coordinator for the Lions. I just think the Bears with the home field advantage will be ready to rock and roll in this game. I think Minnesota, McCarthy's going to have to figure some things out. The under's also not a bad play in this game, if I'm being honest. It's not on my play sheet, but the under's not a bad play. I think both quarterbacks could struggle in this spot. These are both pretty solid defenses. So the under's not a bad play as well. But I do like the Bears here more than the Vikings. Again, I think the Vikings have slightly more talent, but I have more questions right now with McCarthy than Caleb Williams. Williams struggled last year, but there's a lot of reasons as to why. I think he should definitely be better this year. Versus with McCarthy, we haven't seen him since Michigan, since the national championship game. It's been a minute, okay? We got to see what McCarthy can do. Coming off an injury and whatnot, we'll see. I think it's a tough first game for him. But the Vikings are more of a long-term play in terms of their wins on the season. I think the Bears will definitely win this one, though, to kick off their 2025 NFL season. All right, guys. Now, normally on the NFL Oracle, we would end the video with some parlays and some teasers. We're not going to do that for two reasons. First and foremost, this video is already over an hour long. If I do parlays and teasers, this video will be an hour and a half long. We're not doing that. Second of all, I'm going to be going live Sunday morning before the slate to go ahead and give you guys some parlays and teasers for the first NFL Sunday of the year. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Kickoff Sunday. We're going to go either 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. We haven't fully decided yet. I think probably more like 9 a.m. But we're going to go live here on our YouTube channel, and we're going to go ahead and go give you some parlays and teasers for Sunday's slate. So normally next week we'll do the parlays and teasers as part of the Oracle, but for this week, due to time and also because we're going live on Sunday, we're going to do the parlays and teasers there on Sunday. So guys, that is it. Thank you. I know it's a long video. I will put the timestamps so you guys can jump around between games and listen to the analysis that you want to listen to. I know I don't expect everyone to listen to an hour-long video, but I appreciate you guys. One more time, please make sure to go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I'll be back to next week with another NFL Oracle video. Until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe because, like I said, we got a ton of great content. I got 2 college football videos coming out tomorrow. I've got at least 2 or 3 more NFL videos coming out this week, so a lot to look forward to, guys. Until next time, hope you're all winners. Let's go ahead and make some money.